Welcome, everybody. We are about to watch the OCS finals game versus Paul Myers, who is the light side player at the bottom of your screen, playing the HITCO objective and starting the farm card, uh, versus Justin Desai, the dark side player at the top of your screen, playing the ISB operations objective. One thing to note, although the new virtual set 13 just came out this past yesterday, actually, just came out on GIMP. The PDF came out. It's very exciting new V13 cards. The players have agreed to play this game without any V13 cards. So HITCO did get a lot of helpers in V13. It got a new effect that pulls Yoda's hut, and it got an Anakin Skywalker interrupt and stuff like that. But Paul will not be using any of those. Justin is, though, playing ISB under the errata, which happened a few weeks ago. And so he is not allowed to start the 2.0 site anymore and use slip sliding away. So he opted to start the 500 Republica site as his starting location so that he can still use slip sliding away to grab the Cloud City upper walkway. Before the errata, I would have said ISB is somewhat favored due to. One sec, let me turn off the notifications on my phone so we don't keep hearing chimes. ISB would have been favored, I think, but it really helped them to have only the sort of battleground sites having these related and stuff. Though with HITCO already giving you a battleground site with the Ewok Village, and then the farm giving you another one, and against an I Must Be Allowed to Speak version, there's going to be lots of different battlegrounds, lots of places for ISB to go wide to, and I think that will be hard for HITCO to manage. That ISB will have at least 3 or 4 battleground sites they can go to. They will have the Jedi Council Chamber and Boss Nass chambers that they can go wide to, and I think it's very likely Paul Myers' HITCO does not have any space in it. So I think it's likely Justin can just throw a ship up to Mustafar, get a free drain of 1 every turn, and then can just spread wide, satisfy battle order, drain free. So I think I like ISB a lot in this matchup. All right, getting into the details of the actual game, it looks like Justin's first turn was to Paul played a leadership and grabbed General Leia. Justin played the docking bay with arrest order, used KDY to grab Mustafar, and drew 3 cards. And then Paul's turn was to grab the Lars farm, play Luke, and use I Must Be Allowed to Speak to get a card from Use Pal with Luke, and then play the lightsaber from hand. I am curious about playing the lightsaber from hand. Unless both are from hand, I think you should always grab it from deck. Unless you need the one force with Like My Father, because it was back in the erratas about a year ago. It was changed to or. You can download the Luke lightsaber or place a card. You used to be able to do both. So if you do need that one force, if he's going to play a character for deploy 4 or something here, you play the one from hand. That's fine. But otherwise, you kind of want to get that floating one out. So you pull the lightsaber from reserve, and then you just keep the other one in hand. That way you have slightly better destiny. That's, I think, slightly preferred, but it could go either way, because if you want to draw the extra card rather than then you can draw and put back the lightsaber, whatever. It doesn't matter. So he uses rescue, in which rescue gets him Wisa, and he used Wisa to grab. Oh no, he used rescue and then he drew a couple. So it looks like he maybe grabbed the rescue with his use pull, but maybe not. So he used rescue, he drew a couple, he found the Wisa in his draw phase and pulled Boss Nass chambers, and then he'll use the Luke effect to place an extra card down to have one saved in case he wants to grab something. And he'll go ahead, and he'll use that force to retrieve with secret plans, and I think Justin will opt not to stack a card on conflict to cancel that. He's using the back of his objective to retrieve, and I don't think Justin cares if he has a heading back in his deck. Stubbly is wondering if Justin is just going to blitz Luke here, drop like 5 guys in a trooper assault. I think that's less likely now with the erratas. So V13 is on Jemp. It is legal. These two players have agreed to play to finish the tournament with what had been in effect, i.e. no V13. So they're not playing any V13 cards. It did just come out yesterday, but they had already agreed last week. They're just going to play without V13 stuff. So I think it's less likely. Wolf would help to activate 4 more. I think it's less likely now that he would pile on Luke post errata, because back when Gideon could deploy someone anywhere for -3 instead of a trooper, it's now just to his site and for -2. And now that it's not the 2-0, that if he had the 2-0, which let Imperials deploy -1 everywhere, he could drop Gideon for 4, download a trooper for -3, so probably free, but maybe a garrison for 3, and then drop a bunch more troopers at -1 each, so they only would cost 1 or 2 then, and then he could battle on trooper assault and get out like, a stack of 5 or 6 guys here really cheap. Without having that -1 and without Gideon's download and everything, I think it's much less likely he attacks Luke. I think the better line of play is to say, all right, fine, I'll eat a drain of 2, most of which will just be retrieved back with my objective flip side pretty soon, and I'm just going to go to space. I'm going to go to a battleground site, and then I'm going to start going wide. I'm going to go to the JCC. I'm going to go to that Boss Nass Chambers when you play it, maybe over to the Ewok Village. It will be a drain of 3 the subsequent turns after Prophecy relocates, but for now it's 2, and if he goes to a site and he gets his own drain through next turn, it'll relocate back, so it'll keep it down at a drain of 2. Justin pays 3 to accelerate and grabs Justice, and Justice stacks 3 characters. Not a surprise when there's 30 characters in the deck or so typically, but there's Min, Poltreatum, and a Patrol. That Patrol, of course, will be big if Justin is playing a bunch of non-uniques and strategic reserves to cancel drains, which I think is likely if he anticipates HITCO. It's a good card. Justice is also a good card to have. I am wondering if he was trying to accelerate for strategic, and Justice was the one in there, though I don't know why you wouldn't look for a docking bay first to check that. Justice is very good, I think, against Paul's HITCO in particular, because he has a number of different ways to add Destiny. Of course, I think he has probably 2 Lando Scoundrels, but then he also plays Skywalkers to add Destiny when Leia's with Luke, and then he plays Leadership to add Destiny. So having Justice out definitely helps you when you're going to be battling. I think what we're going to see is Desai go to Battleground site and system. Paul will not be able to kick him off a Battleground site because there's 4 of them, and I don't think he'll have space, and so then Desai can go wide, and I think Desai will just out-damage. So Paul will want to get in some kind of good beatdown, and Justin will want to be looking for like a Gick to make sure he doesn't eat overflow in a big battle. J-Nap says Paul got him once with Gift of the Mentor too. That wasn't fun. I think Gift of the Mentor is going to be one you see a lot more post V13. Now that there's the new Yoda that's just really good. I noticed when the graphics came out yesterday, it said on the bottom, designed by KTOD, winners of the 2018 OCS, the inaugural season. I think they did a great job designing it. It's a strong card. I mean, it's if you're the kind against power creep, you may not be a fan, but I like it. I like strong cards. I like fun. I think the new Yoda is really good. So and it's going to be seen in HITCO. Obviously, you can pull it with the Jedi Council Chamber, and he gives you an extra icon. He can relocate to a battleground once per game. He's immune to attrition. He's power 3. +3 if 2 Jedi on table, so Luke and him, or if he's defending a battle. So he's real strong. And since I think we'll see HITCO play him and pull him and move him to be with Luke and stuff, we're going to see Gift of the Mentor a lot more to add Destinies. Kiss My Wookie says, I've seen him use Harvest to add 2 as well with O number. Yeah. So Paul adds some Destinies, whether that's Skywalker's, Harvest, Gift of the Mentor, Rebel Leadership, Lando Scoundrel. He's going to be adding some Destinies. So that Justice will help. Paul pays 3 to drain for 2. And Justin, it looks like loses Stalker and Sergeant Barak, both from reserve deck. Oh no, Stalker from hand and Stalker from reserve deck, Barak from hand. And that's interesting because Barak's not an ISB guy, so it's not like you can retrieve him. He can, of course, retrieve him if he wins a battle with enforcement, but that's the kind of guy who helps you win battles. Him with another biker scout drawing his destiny and subtracting from their power and attrition. He helps you win battles, and you can't retrieve him with your objective. So I wonder if there's a key card Justin is worried about top decking, though I'm not quite sure what that would be. Maybe if he just, after he lost the ship, he was worried about losing back-to-back ships and wasn't worth, I don't know. And of course, Paul does his peak with his flip side. And then he drops a free Owen and Baru and a General Leia. With a rest order on the table, Nabran isn't going to do a thing. I don't know that Paul would be playing it, but it is a threat when Lightside doesn't have Insurrection out. But since Justin has a rest order, he's not going to be able to Nabran. So those characters, they can move with Odin eventually, but they're going to be fairly limited in where they are. And that's a big chunk of his fighting force. I think he might have over-deployed there. If you're Justin and you can go to 2 sites in a system and just ultimatum that drain, I think you're okay just being like, all right, you drain 2 every turn. If I can get down a character that will flip you back like Vader, possibly Emperor, but if I can get someone that flips you back and to stop your retrieval, and I can retrieve an ISB guy every turn, and I can drain, once I'm flipped, like 2-2-1, and then go wide, like, I think Justin's totally okay with Paul deploying all that stuff right there. Yeah, HITCO does ban Episode 1 Jedi except Yoda. We are I think so it's possible Paul was just worried about a whole ton of guys. Justin's gonna have 19 force and 11 in hand, just a whole ton of guys coming down on Luke and getting like power 40, and he didn't have the Hojiks, and he's like, I'm just gonna go ahead and deploy some backup there. Plus it's bad for Paul if Justin takes this over, because if he gets Vader and a trooper there and he's got the ISB objective, he's draining for 4, and so he doesn't want to lose this site. But when committing that much, it leaves a lot of other places for Justin to go. We did a revert. Justin said, oops, misclick, and Paul said, no problem, all good. I didn't see what it was. Dylan said, I wonder if Paul still runs Home 1. That's a good point. There have been some builds where he uses Walkling to grab launching the assault, and he uses that to grab Home 1. He's already running multiple leaderships to grab out his General Leia. He also tends to play a General Jar Jar to use with the leaderships. So if he then uses that leadership to grab Admiral Akbar, he can come down with Home 1 and Akbar and actually take over Mustafar. And with launching out, it's a drain 3 if Vader's not on table. And so Justin might not want to underdeploy there if he's anticipating Home 1, but I think there's a better chance that Paul's HITCO is spaceless, but it could go either way. All right, so Justin opts to set up at his Cloud City site. And I think the reason why you'd choose that over the village is because it's immune to projection, just in case that's there or anything. It is exterior in case he has like a Blizzard 4, though that's maybe not super likely. And versus setting up here, and you probably don't want Light to be able to move back and forth between to block this drain and stuff. So, oh, that's cute. All right, so he drops down Poltreatum, Tarl, and Tarkin. Poltreatum lets him draw a card when he was deployed, and then he drops Vandalay, which gives him 4 and flips. Then he uses Vandalay to take Poltreatum into hand, which Poltreatum, when leaves table, can draw another one. So he basically got to deploy Poltreatum and draw 2 cards. And then next turn, when he deploys him again, he's unique, so he can't deploy him again this turn. But next turn, when he deploys him again, he'll get to draw another card. So he's just using that little trick to get extra cards in hand. He drops Vader, and that's a very safe play for a couple reasons. One, it flips back HITCO, but leaves Vader at a very safe location where you've got Tarkin who can cancel a Destiny. Justin probably does not have very many cards that flip back HITCO. Vader might be the only one. There could be a Mara, but could be a Mara in her ship. There could be an Emperor, but it might just be the one Vader. And so keeping him safe to keep HITCO on the front side is important. So putting him with the Tarkin that cancels Destinies is a good play. And then the other thing is Vader himself being able to blank game text. Chewie, now that these guys are kind of down, one of the big threats is Chewie, and Vader can blank Chewie's text so he can't swing. And then the other threats are going to be like EPP Rey and EPP Obi. But stacking that site when you got the Destiny cancel, when you got the Vader blanking, is somewhat safe. And now he's flipped. He'll be able to retrieve ISB agents. Light's going to drain 3, but when Dark drains for 2 with the ISB objective, it'll relocate. Prophecy will relocate. And both of his Skywalkers are over here, so he's not going to be able to get over to the village and keep it from relocating, at the moment at least. So the Prophecy will bounce back and forth and not come into play in terms of adding to drains after this turn, assuming Desai pays to drain next turn. And that means it'll just be a drain of 2 versus a drain of 2, and Dark is retrieving 1 and Light is not. And that's, of course, before the fact that Dark has the ability to go to more different locations than Light does. A lot of their forces are committed, whereas Dark still has a bunch of stuff. Stubbly said that Paul dropped home 1 in his build recently, but he being Connor Stubbly is guessing that Paul might have put it back in after he lost so much to space drains against Eric. Eric went all space deck in their previous match, and almost beat Paul in the match because of it. Won the game by 15 or whatever it was, 1 less than he needed to, or 2 less, I don't know, whatever it was, real close. And so Connor thinks Paul might have put the home 1 back in. Connor said, I actually considered playing ISB versus him in our second game, but in testing couldn't consistently win by more than 14, which was their differential from game 1 against HITCO with home 1. So Stubbly thinks if HITCO plays home 1, it's hard for ISB to win big. Paul's going the one going wide here. He's going to the Republica. He knows that if Prophecy starts bouncing and they're both draining 2 and 2, but Dark's retrieving 1, Dark is ahead in that drain race. So he goes ahead and goes over to the Republica. So now the next interesting question, I think. And to that drain, Justin lost the docking bay from hand. He decided his 13 activation is enough. I think he's anticipating getting to space and draining free and playing a bunch of cheap guys, so he doesn't need 14 force. 13 is fine. So he loses docking bay from hand. He loses a patrol from hand, which indicates to me he's not playing strategic reserves. Otherwise, you'd save that patrol while you're looking for that strategic. And then he loses Death Squadron assignments from used pile. He had played that to pull out his vengeance. So he does have Chewie. That's why he doesn't want to attack over here. Vader would just blank Chewie, and Tarkin very well could just cancel an Obi's swing, one of his destinies and make him miss. So, and if he does, he hits a scrub, and Tarkin, if he swings at someone low, and then Tarkin doesn't cancel and he cancels a battle destiny, it's like all you've killed is 1 scrub. It's not a good trade. So, so he goes over to the Republica. He's like, I need to do damage versus your ISB. I need to start out damaging you. Dylan thinks he might have Skywalkers in hand. That's why he wants to lay with Luke. He might have Harvest. Yeah. I think he was just going with what he needed to make sure he secured the farm. Now I think the next interesting question of this game, I think, is how does Desai respond? And there's two ways he could respond. I think the Lars farm is too secure to attack. You don't attack into Luke, because if you kill him, there's just another one. You're risking the Skywalkers, you're risking the Harvest. Of course, you do have Justice, so you're not as worried about those. But there's not a lot of upside to attacking here. So I think it'd be more likely he'd attack here. Weapons are bad for this ISB. because it can, if it hits a guy, and then attrition's a guy, it's clearing through a bunch of your stuff, and that's no fun when you're dark and you trade 3 guys for 1 guy. So I think it's more likely we see Justin go to the battleground system, and then go Boss Nass Chambers, maybe JCC, though with Light being able to move over, he might just skip that and then go over to the Ewok Village. Oh, there is a strategic. That's odd that he lost a patrol from hand when he's got strategic. Maybe he's worried about Grimtosh. Maybe he had multiple, and he's like, I'll just retrieve. Maybe that was his only other ISB agent in hand, too. Maybe he's like, I'll just retrieve that in my draw phase next turn. I'm going to go ahead and just lose this duplicate, retrieve it, and still have a cancel for right now. But, yeah, I mean, that's my only guess, because otherwise it seems weird to lose patrol from hand when you have strategic in hand. But I think I do remember seeing Paul play a Grimtosh before, so he might have just had doubles and just know that once he played strategic, Paul might, before his next turn drain, pay 4 to Grimtosh lost, and then pay to drain, and Justin was like, I don't want to risk that when I have doubles in hand. Of course, there is a Grimtosh shield now that he could play anticipating that, but it's in V13, and they agreed not to play V13 cards, so, but that would be a legit play now if they had V13 cards. Jane App's wondering if Justin put it into the bureaucrat. Oh, and there is a garrison going on there to cancel the Lars farm, drain of 3, and then he will eat a drain of 2. He did retrieve that patrol in his draw phase with this objective. Prophecy relocates over. So now, assuming that prophecy bounces again, we're looking at a drain of 2 and 2 versus 2 and 1. And retrieving 1, so they're pretty even on the damage race. Darkside has deployed more cards and lost more, so Dark is behind right now. Light is still at 43 hand and life, and Dark is at 30. So Light's up by 13 hand and life. That's a big difference right now. 13 that Dark's going to have to catch up on, just because of, like I said, deploying more. Losing more early damage. However, I think their damage potential is a lot higher if they add a drain of 2 over here and a drain of 2 over here, and they're doing 2, 4, 6, 7 in retrieving 1 versus 4, and then they have the random occasional cancel as well. So I do think Dark's upside is higher. It easily has the ability to catch up in that difference, but I think that difference is what's going to make this game close, because Dark will start to out damage, but is starting in such a hole now by turn 5 here that by the time it catches up to that extra 13 difference, it will be 5 turns from now that Dark's done 20 more damage and or Light's done 20 more damage. Maybe Dark wins by 12 to 15 range. We'll see what twists there are. Paul uses Escape Pod to grab Hujix, and that's good information for Justin. He knows if for whatever reason someone gets deployed thinly here, or he goes wide to the Boss Nass Chambers and just alone Corin or whatever comes down to kill something, Justin can't just opt not to draw Destiny and then pile a ton of stuff and overflow it, because he knows he does have that Hujix. So it's lines of play that change what you might do. And Justin drains 2 and 1, and Prophecy relocates. Paul loses the Escape Pod from Use Pile, EPP Ray from Reserve Deck, and he lost a Luke's Lightsaber from hand. So he is anticipating. So maybe he did have both Luke's Lightsabers in hand early in his opening hand. Paul is anticipating not ever losing that Luke. He just loses his second saber. He's like, yeah, this is fine. So Erica comes down. It's Erica V. She would be tech added for Legend, because if you put Paul on Legend, it would be nice to have that one retrieval every turn. She needs to be at a battleground to retrieve, but also she needs Luke not to be present, and just like Paul's anticipating, Luke's not ever going to die, I'm going to pitch that saber. Justin's anticipating, Luke's not ever going to die, I'm not ever going to get to retrieve from that, so I'm going to go ahead and send her over to the Boss Nass Chambers to start an extra drain there. He's starting that go wide that we talked about. And he draws a couple, he retrieves Obrick with his objective, and passes turn. He's only got 7 in hand, though. He's been using a lot of his resources, so he doesn't have a lot of 8 in hand. I guess he had just played a Death Squadron assignments, and it wasn't showing. It had shown that taken away, but not the Ozzel that he pulled back into hand. So he doesn't have a lot to come back at Paul if Paul does do something. Oh, thanks, Greg. Looks like Chiranu was also deployed during the deploy phase. And that is big. That will up this drain to 2 every turn. So now Desai is threatening 6 versus 4. And then, like I said, there's the random occasional cancel, and there's one of them. There's the patrol. And then Justin's retrieve. So 6 in a retrieve versus 4, that sometimes 2 of which is canceled. Justin does have these cards stacked on Justice that are another thing, reducing his hand and life force count that he might be able to get back if they have 3 battles. But the way this is shaping up, there might not be a ton of battles. It'll mostly be Paul defending these wide sites, I think. So are we... Justin does not have enough force to react with a patrol. He only has 2, and the patrols cost 3. We have Min, Poultreatum, and Patrol stacked. Poultreatum is already up on the Vengeance. He was the one that Vandalay bounced earlier and then came down with the ship. So we won't see him grab that, but probably just grab another patrol for another cancel. But I think Erica will just trade with Ray, and Justin's okay with that trade because as long as he doesn't take a lot of overflow. If he gets hit and Paul draws a 6 and he draws a 2, and he has to peel 5 and doesn't have a Gick, that'd be a bummer. And Paul is going to go for some overflow here. He's hoping he doesn't have the Gick. Obviously, he won't be able to leadership an extra Destiny because of Justice, but he'll get to retrieve one with Leia because Ray is a resistance agent battling. And so that Ray will retrieve the other Ray. And there's an Abron. Okay. So, I mean, that's moot in this game with the rest order, but it's one of those things that's good to keep in mind. Justin might have a Lana Dobreed combo also right here. If he has that to protect her forfeit, then he's not going to be peeling any overflow. We'll see. Oh, and he gets to retrieve with Ray's Saber. So Paul's got a nice... he's only got 1 in Lost right now. Justin's got 8 in Lost. So no Lana combo. And Justin opts for Min. I'm wondering if there's a shield he wants. Probably code clearance in case of a harvest. So Light draws a 4. Dark is down by 9 minus their Destiny, which he might consider not drawing if he has the Gick. And that is exactly what he does. He has to stack a card to conflict. But after Paul retrieved that other Ray, Justin decided, I'm fine with Ray and Jar Jar just being stuck there. So he's just going to lose Erica and Gick the 9 battle damage. It is a non-combo Gick, which I probably wouldn't grab here as Paul when I see non-combo, because non-combo to me tends to indicate just 1. If you're running combo Gick, there's 2. I guess he could have 1 and 1, or he might have 2 of the non-combo and Masterful. But a lot of times, if you have 2 Gicks, you might cut that for a Masterful and 1 Gick. Gives you equal chance to get them in hand. But if he's anticipating Paul might play Diplo, which he did last round against Stubley's Hunt Down, if Paul was going to play Diplo, he wants that Masterful combo to cancel Celebration, so he might just have 1 and 1. And if so, then you don't need to grab it because ISB is not going to have a way to get that back. They're not going to play No Escape. Firepower was blanked. They can retrieve Imperials and ISB agents, but not kick. All right, so we got those guys stuck here. That means Justin can go over to the Ewok Village, which will be a drain of 2 with his objective if he gets an ISB agent there. And of course, he can go to the Jedi Council Chamber. It's a drain of 3, and then play cat and mouse back and forth with these characters. And Paul uses the Boss Nass chambers to search for Boss Nass and check what those 6 cards are, I guess. And he draws everything and then uses Luke effect to put down. If those 6 destinies were high, you might worry slightly about a counter assault on this site. They're an average of under 4 power, and if you can draw a bunch of 5s and 6s, you cancel the drain and make him peel like 5 or 6 cards. But I haven't seen Paul play that. I don't know that it would be in his deck. All right, so yeah, Drew says the commitment of resources to protect your non-battlegrounds is such a losing feeling playing against ISB. Yeah, it's a bummer, and that's part of why Legend does pretty well against ISB, and just feels good about it because it doesn't give them any places to go wide to, and it's frustrating playing against Legend for that reason. They really force the issue because of that. Yeah, so Paul definitely wanted to force the Gick there. That's why he played that Jar Jar. What other personas does Paul have? Connor wonders. So let's see. He proposes Lando and Han. Yeah, so I think there would be a solo. I think there would be a Screaming Lando. Paul does usually play, I feel like, fairly persona light. He tends to be more interrupt and high destiny heavy. Hera, Padme, possibly Akbar. Not a lot of fighting forces. Yeah, like if you can... Ahsoka, that's a good call. There could be like a Corrin. I don't know that he plays other stuff like Rose. All right, so Justin drains 2, and Paul loses a Skywalker's from hand and a Skywalker's from reserve deck. So he's anticipating Justin's not going to come fight this, and even if he does, there's justice. So I'm just going to ditch that Skywalker's, and then he happens to top deck another one. Prophecy relocates, and then he drains 2 at Mustafar because of the Chiranu, and Paul top decks a barrier and a leadership. Justin looks for a docking bay, which is not there, but he checks his destiny. 5 cards in reserve. He only has 5 in hand, so don't anticipate battling at any of those 3 locations, but I wouldn't be surprised if he either goes to the village or to the Jedi Council Chamber. Right now, they're each draining 4, and Justin's retrieving 1. So it's 2 and 2 versus 2 and 2, and Justin's retrieving with ISB. So he's slightly ahead in the damage race, but he's quite far behind in Hand and Life. So he does go down to the village, plays Min, and uses Min for code clearance, as we mentioned. Drew says, I'm not sure what Paul can do. Even with home 1, Justin has justice and pull, so he's immune less than 5. Well, the KDY gives him immune less than 4, and then, yeah, pull adds 1 that's less than 5. And if he sticks more ISB agents on it, he could get it up to less than 7, essentially. So he deploys the garrison off of strategic reserves, and the garrison is going to add an extra +1 to the drain because he is at opponent's site. So now this is a drain of 3, 1 icon, 1 from the objective, and 1 from the garrison. So now we're looking at a drain of 3, 2, and 2, and retrieve 1. So that's 7 versus 4, plus retrieve is a net 8 versus 4. So again, we are we're in the same position where they're even in damage, but Paul's ahead on life and reserve. So Justin makes a move to get himself ahead in the damage race. So then Paul responds, and we saw that the last couple turns with them being even, and then Justin going to space, and then Paul going to the other site to pull back to even, and just being ahead in life, and then Justin going to the Boss Nass chambers, and then Paul responding by killing that and getting back to even. So now Justin is again ahead on that damage race, and Paul's going to need to respond to get that back to even so that he can... Paul's fine with an even damage race because he's so far ahead in cards deployed and lost. However, when he's losing the damage race 8-4, that obviously doesn't work. So now we're again at a Paul response. And Justin has another garrison, which he uses to cancel one of the drains. This site will be kind of hard to attack because with that Nagok War Beast, he can't just, sorry about the mess, garrison out of the battle, which means Dark is 15 power and 2 battle destinies with the garrison adding 1. And Ozzel and Min, both being leaders, are immune to weapons, so only the garrison can be hit. If there was multiple weapons, he'd only be able to hit the one character anyway. And even if that dies, now we know there's another one that can come down off strategic. So this is a drain of 3 that Paul will want to deal with, but it's hard to attack when it's power 15, 2 destinies, and several of the characters immune to weapons currently. Drew says he should take a turn off from draining to deploy home 1. I have not seen any indication. Maybe I missed it. I haven't seen any indication that there is a home 1. There's, we haven't seen launching pulled. We haven't seen leadership play to get Akbar. I would at this point be very much guessing there is no home 1, that this is just spaceless. All right, so Lando comes down. He can't eat that drain of 3. If he has something with the weapon, I don't know what else he's got 4 weapons on board. Obi, Chewie, Rey, and Luke. I don't know that he has another weapon, but if he was playing something like the dude who has the little blaster that shoots adjacent, the like powered rifle, whatever it is, he's power 3 ability 1 guy that shoots adjacent. Someone will remember his name. Yutani. Thanks, Drew. If he had Yutani to come down and he could hit that and then draw 2 Battle Destiny and clear out both of them, that would be good. But, I doubt he has Yutani. So I think those are probably all 4 of his weapons already committed. Padme, not nearly as good without a Skywalker. And, of course, both Luke and Leia are over there. If he could get an Aberrant and move over in move phase because of Arrest Order, that would be nice. But it looks like he's just going to block the drain and pass turn. That way, if Justin does battle, he will get the Lando retrieval. He will get 2 Battle Destiny. He basically evened up their damage count again. He said, all right, I'm doing 4. You are now doing 4 and retrieving 1. That's very close. If we look at, Paul plays a rescue and Justin grabs. If we look at hand and life totals right now, Justin is at 23 and Paul is at 33. He is up by 10. And though Justin's about to drain for 4, so he'll be up by 6. And then Justin will retrieve 1, so he'll be up by 5. So it is getting closer, but then Paul will drain for 4, putting him back up by 9. So Justin's netting 1 every turn in this scenario, and Paul's up by between 5 and 10, depending on whose turn it is. So next turn it will be 9, and then down to 4, and then up to 8, and then so Paul's okay with that. We'll see what happens over here. Justin is only at 3 cards in hand. I wouldn't be surprised if we just see another garrison and patrol come down on here and add another... of course, perimeter scan could stop that. Paul's at 10 cards in hand. Add another 11, 12, 13 power with the patrol adding +1 to each of the garrisons and being power 28 to power 9 and just outpowering him by 19. And they each get 2 destinies and just clearing off these characters by just massively outpowering. And then, of course, he would get to retrieve with domination. And then at the end of the turn, he'd retrieve with his objective. And so it wouldn't surprise me to just see the guys on strategic come down. Even though Justin has 3 in hand, those are essentially cards in hand. And he can deploy those and just massively outpower, kill both of these guys. Outpower by 19. Minus Lando would add 6 to his power. So that was a good card to lose last. As Paul, I'm sure he was thinking about that Lando retrieve when he, I would imagine that was from hand. So to the drains of 4, it looks like, it was 3 at the upper walkway because Prophecy didn't relocate. Last turn, Paul did not pay to drain. He just played the characters. So that's what made our Hand in Life count so much closer this turn, not doing 4 damage last turn. So he loses Sorry About the Mess from hand, Nabrin from reserve, and Wisa from reserve. And then the drain 2 at Mustafar, he loses Blaster Defection from reserve, and then Impressive, Most Impressive from hand. Yeah, so he lost that 6 from hand last, anticipating Lando Retrieve. And now down after the drain, down comes Gideon, who pulls Corporal Obrick for free from reserve. He plays the Patrol from the Strategic. And given that he played all that, I don't think he's going to spend another 6 on the Garrison, especially considering it might just get perimeter scanned. He's only got 8 force left. I think he's going to want to pay to battle. He's going to want to pay to retrieve with domination. He's going to want to pay to retrieve with his objective. He's going to want to probably draw a couple because he only has 2 in hand. And he's going to want to pay 1 for upkeep for that Garrison that's already on table. So he's not going to pay 6 of his 8 right now for the other Garrison. He'll just battle with this. If a Trooper Assault, that will add 6 more power. I would put him 31 to 8. Drew says, Justin also has 4 card stacks. Can play Trooper to the site, battle, pick up someone from Justice, lose and retrieve Trooper, draw it later to cancel. Yeah. So if he, during this battle, he can grab off another Patrol to cancel a drain next turn, and cap them to 1 each, which favors Justin because Paul's Destiny is going to be a lot higher on average. So if they're both drawing 2, that favors Paul. So capping him to 1 helps Justin more. So Lando retrieves that 6 and adds 6 to his power. Justin plays a Trooper Assault. So like Drew was saying, right here, he can take off Patrol, which will let him cancel a drain next turn. And then he can lose this Patrol to the battle. He can retrieve something with Enforcement, and then he can lose this Patrol to the battle, to the attrition, and then retrieve it with the objective and cycle those Patrols through so that he gets more strategic cancels throughout the game if he can draw that later. All right, so Justin draws a 2. He's power 33. Oh, and Drew was saying just regarding the Life Force totals. Yeah, just getting more cards back in hand. Sure, back in Life Force. That's true. Paul draws a 5, so it is 33 to 19. That is a difference of 14, and they cover exactly 14. So Paul will take no overflow. Drawing that 5 means he can't just lose a Patrol, which is kind of a bummer for Justin. So he does decide to just lose the Ozzel. I'm wondering, with how many Personas are dead, if it wouldn't have been better to first lose the Patrol and then the Ozzel, so that you, even though you're just basically giving up a Patrol for free, but just to get it back with the objective to cycle it back in for strategic. If you think, hey, he's not going to attack this site again, I mean, he kind of has to attack because otherwise he's just down in the damage race, but I don't know how much he has left to attack with. Of course, an Odin combo could always get him over there in front. And all right, so right now, Justin draws some. He retrieves that Ozzel with the objective. I think the Ozzel will go lost here because there's only 2 in reserve. So Ozzel is the 3rd card down, and if he has to lose 4, he'll peel 2 and then Ozzel to get that 0 out of there, and just another ISB agent lost. Paul is at 29 Hand in Life. Justin is at 23, so he's down by 6. He will do a drain cancel and lose 2, so he'll be down by 8 at the end of this turn. But he's threatening, assuming Prophecy moves, he's threatening 2, 5, 7 in a retrieve, so that will almost catch him up in that. Oh, and I think Paul did pay to drain 1 drain last turn and then deployed the characters, but because it was canceled with strategic, Prophecy did not move. If he had paid to drain it both, obviously, then Prophecy would have moved. Justin keep having a guy to cancel has been big. He's canceled, I think 4 drains, one of them a 3 and the other's a 2. Yeah, because he deployed both a Patrol and a Garrison off of here. So 4 drains, so 9. It saved him 9 force this game at the cost of deploying 1. So now he does drain for 2, and Justin loses Gideon from hand and Accelerate from reserve deck. So now we know that there's a blank card, which Justin will know what it is because he looked with Arrest Order and then drew his Destinies and stuff, so he knows what that last card is. So there's a card that we don't know, and then the Ozzel. So if Justin's setting up an overload to blow up Luke, that'd be sweet. If Paul's not holding that Hear Me Baby, cancel it. Yeah, Drew says pain to drain just to get it canceled is tough. Yeah, like it's frustrating. You know they're gonna cancel it, but what else can you do? You have to get damage through at some point. You got to chew through those characters for strategic, but it's like, yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, I mean, short of you playing answers for strategic, playing Alter, playing Galen to place it used, things like that. All right, so there we see the second Lando come down. And Lando's just going to... Here's why I don't like this play. He only has 3/4 left. Obviously, it's only Lando, which means Lando's going to eat a Hujix battle. But what that cost you, you paid 5. You're going to lose Lando, you're going to lose the Hujix, and you're going to let him retrieve with Domination. So you've essentially lost 3 versus it's a drain of 3. Now Lando will retrieve 1, so that means you've made it 2 instead of 3, but you basically spent your turn paying 5 to, instead of eating a drain of 3, to lose Lando and Hujix, but retrieve 1, but let him retrieve 1 with Domination. So you cut the 3 to a 2. It's like, okay, if you have... Oh, and it costs 6, not 5 force. Good call, Nutritious, because the patrol makes Rebels +1. So I think what that indicated is Paul says, I got nothing else to do. I am draining, but I can't attack space. I don't have home 1. I don't have anything. I can't attack this site that's too stacked with both Vader Blank and Tarkin Cancel. This site I can't attack because it's so stacked with power. And I'm out of personas. I'm low on force because I have to pay 6 to drain every turn. I'm just going to block this, and it's going to net me 1 force. But hey, that's 1 extra force because I got nothing else to do. So if there's the Hear Me Baby. If you are Justin, you're happy to see that because you're like, all right, fine, whatever. You saved yourself 1, but I'm just going to battle into it. And Justin uses Min to place the Hear Me Baby out of play, just essentially causing 1 force loss. And how come Prophecy didn't move? He did get a drain through. Hang on, I'm confused. Can someone in the chat tell me? So he drained at Republica and it was canceled with Strategic. He used Like My Father and he drained the Lars farm. And he lost... Oh, it did relocate, and then it just relocated back because Justin already drained. I was like, what just happened? It did move. Yeah, all right, thank you. Okay, so Justin drained, and we had Luke lost from used pile. That was the 1 force he paid maintenance for Lando, and a Wisa from hand. Prophecy relocated, and then he drained, and he played Hear Me Baby, and then he drained 2 at Mustafar, and he lost Jedi Love from hand, indicating he doesn't want to use that to get a persona back because of code clearance. And most impressive from reserve. I'm not sure I like that losing that Jedi Lev because, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's other retrieval you're counting on in this game, like Leia battling, but I don't see a lot of other retrieval that you're going to be doing, and getting a persona back could be pretty big. But I don't know. So Paul does get that top deck. Maybe he was tracking that impressive, which will add to his power. But I think Lando's still going to be having to use that Hujix. So Justin deploys the patrol from Strategic and a Colonel Wolf and Merrick Steele to the JCC. And then he battles and Lando retrieves 1. And we're going to see... We see a couple Battle Destinies. We'll see if he dominations one of them into hand, a Rens or a Cur. He opts not to, even with only 2 in hand. I feel like I might have. Let's see, they're both at 4 locations, so I feel like I might have domination to one of them just to have more in hand, because you can always lose it to a drain. But if Desai does move or split forces on Coruscant, having the extra guy could be useful. But anyway, Justin wins the battle after Paul draws a Wisa for Battle Destiny. He retrieves Erica with domination. And we're going to see Lando and a Gik, because otherwise he would have to peel 4 on top of Lando. And then Darkside we are going to see for 5. I think we'll see Min die. And again, he could give up a free patrol, which only covers 4, in order to try and get that back with the objective. He did just see what cards were in his lost pile when he retrieved that Erica. He might have seen there's no ISB agents, and he wants a free agent this turn. But no, he opts for Moff. I don't know why you would do Moff over Min. Probably he's got another one in hand, because otherwise I was going to say Min already used his pull a shield. His drains aren't being reduced from anything, and he already used his place out of play. So if you lose him, you can always get him back with domination and then play him again for another shield. But I'm guessing he has another Gideon in hand, and we do see the Hujiks for Lando. Justin did not retrieve with his objective. He did not retrieve that Gideon, so he wanted to save 1 force. Why? His grabber's already used. Min is already used. He paid 1 for upkeep. Patrols cannot react that cheaply. I don't think he has to worry about a draw their fire battle, meaning he can't pay for Gik if he had 0 force, because there's nowhere he can get beat down with Paul's 3 cards in hand if one was draw their fire, where he's going to get beat down for a bunch of overflow. So why did Justin need to save 1 instead of paying 1 to retrieve Moff Gideon? I don't know. Oh yeah, thanks for getting those life force totals. I got distracted. Right now it is. Let's see. Let's finish these drains. That was the second drain. So 1 drain again got canceled. Justin has canceled so many drains this game. That's got to be frustrating for Paul. And then he gets the second drain through, and Justin loses Erica and Callus both from reserve. Callus being the 1 force he paid to retrieve the Erica. Let's see. So right now, we see Ahsoka come down to stop that JCC drain. Right now, we are looking at Justin is at 16 hand in life, and Paul is at 22. So Paul is up 6. This turn, though, Justin's going to be doing 7. 3, 2, and 2. He moves over Chewie. See, this is where I kind of would have liked Justin to have taken that Kirkanos into hand with enforcement. I guess if he does the redraw, he's 3 less power, and then it's just Lando and 1 instead of Lando and Hujiks. But with only 2 cards in hand, only 14 left in life force, you're probably not going to be dropping like 6 guys on him at some point and getting a big overflow. You don't really care if he burns Hujiks or doesn't. Either way, whether he loses Hujiks for the battle or whether he peels 1 for the battle, it's the same for Justin either way. So I feel like having that Kirkanos in hand right now to go down to the Republica and move those 3 guys over, they're a lot safer versus Obi with a stack of 4 guys instead of 3. And well, I guess you got the guys in the strategic reserves. You can always just drop a garrison and then move 3 guys over, and then now you've just shut down half of his drains, so that even if you don't have a guy for strategic, you're only losing 2, and if you do, you're not losing any. Was Alzol next for Destiny? Oh, for the redraw? No, I think he drew both his Destinies. Alzol was towards the top of reserve. It was a blank card and then Alzol, and then he activated that. Alzol would have been. I would have thought the one used. I wonder if Alzol is in reserve right now. I would have thought maybe the one used for the upkeep. I wonder if Alzol is the 1 force in reserve. All right, so Paul opts to walkling to retrieve resilience after the first drain. Let's see what's Paul losing. So the drain of 2 at Cloud City, he lost Obi from reserve and resilience from reserve, and then walklinged it. Drain 2 at Mustafar, he lost Wisa and impressive most impressive both from reserve. And drain 3 at the village, he lost a Luke, a Wisa, and a rescue all from reserve. So now Paul is at 13 in life force to Justin's 14. And he has one more in hand. They're exactly tied. Yeah, they're at 16 hand and life each. So, yeah, it's looking like a Justin win by 10, maybe. Maybe Desai can maneuver a few more with the objective retrieval and maybe even a couple enforcement retrieval. So we are going to see the patrol off of strategic. And an Ozil from hand. Okay, Ozil in hand means he was... Oh, Justin already had one saved the previous turn because we were wondering, why does he have one saved? Ozil was the one card he drew, and then he paid one for upkeep, which was that blank card that we didn't know what it was, that Justin knew, and then he still kept that one saved. So... he's going to move his guys out. Now Paul is... I mean, the nice thing for Paul is now he only has to pay 3 instead of 6 to get his damage through, but obviously he's not getting very much damage through. Dark just moves out, stacks that site. Yeah, I think they both played this very well. I think... it's a little bit unfortunate for Paul how early Justin found that strategic and how many non-uniques he's been able to constantly have. But, you know, that's part of the way Justin built the deck, of course. Even to the point of playing We Must Accelerate Our Plans in the deck, which isn't necessarily a common one you see. But other than that, it hasn't seemed like anyone's gotten very unlucky or anyone's had any really... It's felt like a fairly standard game where Dark... And again, Justin... his deck building is slightly tilted towards this matchup, like having that Chiranu to essentially be a lightsaber in space to add one to that drain. There was that one good move of being like, all right, I'm just going to not draw Destiny here, because I imagine what happens if Erica does draw Destiny there is Rey gets lost and gets Jedi's Resilience, and then she comes down and attacks elsewhere, and then she retrieves with Leia by attacking and blah, blah, blah. So that move of just sacrificing Erica and the Gik and leaving them stranded was really nice. And of course, Nabrin is not like Odin in that you can't just warp to any battleground in move phase. They both have to be exterior. So because of arrest order, Nabrin could not evacuate those guys. Paul said, whoops, and got a revert. And Justin said, you're playing too fast, smiley face. That is true. Paul is only down by about 10 total minutes. Justin's at almost 32 and Paul's at about 22 minutes on clock. But it hasn't felt... There's been a lot of interaction. There's been a lot of stuff going on. It hasn't felt like we've been waiting for thinking time or anything like that. Stubbly says, love Mark Steel. That is legend tech. So yeah, exactly. That's to go on one of your Star Destroyers. And then you Justice to cap them to 1 battle destiny, and then they cannot play All-Wings Report in to spin around Justice and essentially get a second destiny. And not just Legend Tech, but also Diplo. Paul's Diplo last game versus you, in fact, Stubbly, he didn't start squadron assignments. But he did have General Lando in there, and it looked like he had 3 Darklighter spins to pull the Falcon. So his plan was pull General Cal with strike planning, and then find one of those 3 spins, pull the Falcon, and then double move to deliver the plans, which never happened. He never ended up flipping against you. But knowing that Paul's Diplo had 3 spins, I think that Mark Steele is also partly for that, besides Legend. Justin said, all of my games have not added up to more than 2 hours total. So 5 games. Justin tends to play quick, and he also has been getting a lot of blowouts. We had this Bastion game last round where Justin was HITCO versus Bastion CCG, and Bastion scooped on turn whatever it was. I didn't see the game because I was like, I went on Jump to go watch it because I know it had started streaming, and I was like, and the game was already gone, and I was like, oh, what happened? So I went on the Twitch stream and just like jumped to the end and saw Bastion's comment about like, well, let's just go watch football GG, and saw the matchup and was like, oh, okay. So I don't know what turn it was, whether it was like turn 3 or 5 or whatever, but it obviously was a quick. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Greg. Steele also says you can't, besides can't substitute destinies, they can't cancel them, so they can't do the legend cancel and redraw flip side thing. Though ISB doesn't care about that so much. It's not like ISB is going to draw a 6 and then have it redrawn into a 2 or something. ISB is just drawing low random characters, so the redraw is not as big. I think it's more for the spin, but it is true that he does stop the redraw. This is game 1, Dan, and it's getting close. It's looking like Desai may win by upper single digits as dark side ISB versus pmyers light side HITCO. Try to not text while you're driving. Drew says focus on the road, but hopefully you're not reading that chat. So you just put on Twitch. Don't type to us anymore, Dan. You can just listen to the commentary right now. It is Paul's turn. It's his move phase. He is, I'm sure, going to move some guys out from the JCC out in front of the guys at the Republica, and then Justin will drain for up. And Paul did get a drain through this turn, past strategic. Colonel Wolf went from hand, and Evax went from hand. So Justin's just losing ISB guys that he can retrieve. Justin's going to do 7 damage. So Paul's at 16. Minus 7 will leave him at 9. So he's got another 2 turns of that. So Justin will probably win by 11-ish. My sweet voice. Yeah, it's great. Drew says, it's okay to not focus on the road if you're driving a golf ball, but not a car. Well, Dan, if you're just driving, rather than typing in the chat, what you need to be doing is calling me on Discord, and you can just commentate the game without seeing anything. I'll just let you guess what's happening, and then I'll just fill in some details. All right, so Paul gets an Odin, and he Odins for 5, and he moves everyone from the Lars farm to the upper walkway, which is Leia, Owen, and not everyone, just Leia and Luke. Which we know he's already lost 2 Skywalkers, so they don't seem that scary. Of course, there is still 1 on Justice, but you're looking at power 12 versus power 14. Dark gets a Destiny cancel. He is blocking that drain of 2, but he left the drain of 3. I think that was an interesting site to attack. Maybe he just didn't want to attack into the extra Destiny of Garrison, but there is another Garrison on Strategic, so I'm not sure about that choice of locations. All right, so he plays, he uses the Luke effect to put down a card after drawing. And so now Justin is going to be doing 5 this turn. He did leave just a random Owen and Baru at the Lars farm. And we know there's a Garrison on Strategic. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Garrison and some guys from hand. We did just see both Evax and somebody else come from hand to the drain. Colonel Wolf and Evax. Colonel Wolf is already on table, so that's fine, but he did lose Evax, so you could think of that 2 ways. 1, he's saving used interrupts and he's out of or low on characters in hand, or 2, he had just had a bunch of characters and he was fine losing that extra 1. We've not seen Harvest, so if he could still have Harvest, and that's why he wanted to leave Owen and Baru, or he might not have it. he does have ultimatum satisfied now for the drain of 3. Okay, so it didn't matter which of the 2 locations he went to in terms of stopping a drain. I still think, I don't know. Yeah, it's not a good situation. And it's tough to leave Owen and Baru alone. They're just draining for 1, and they're vulnerable. So Justin, let's see. So what did Justin do? He drained at Mustafar, and Paul lost a Luke and a Resilience, both from reserve, and then he lost Odin combo and Jedi's concentration to the drain at the village, which was capped with ultimatum. Lieutenant Renz comes down to the Republica site, which is interesting. Rather than going to the upper walkway for that fight, or rather going over to the Lars farm, he opts to add more here. And then he is going to Lana everyone from the upper walkway over to the Lars farm, which Paul will grab. And Owen and Baru are going to eat a very large battle if Paul cannot find Solo, who could either play Hujix or play his own Odin to move back in front. But Owen and Baru's text will be canceled by Vader, meaning they won't even get a Destiny. He does so the reason why he did Renz was he decided, I don't want to abandon the site and give you another drain of 2, so I'm just going to eat a battle there. You've got 2 weapons, so you'll hit 2 dudes. I'll lose another one to attrition, so I'll lose 3 of my 6 guys, but it'll save me 2 force. Justin might even win that battle, being power 19 to 16, and if he plays a trooper assault, he'd be power 23 to 16, so he could even win that battle and retrieve with domination. So people are... Luke's is asking what you Rebel Scum does. Cancels a Rebels game text with 2 troopers. Ryan Searson knew that because he plays it in his ISB apparently. So that would be good to cancel Obi's text. There are 2 troopers there. Fun card. Solid Snack says from back in the EPP days, less useful with resistance characters around now. That's true, but there's still a fair number of rebels, and canceling Luke's text against HITCO so you can break his immunity and stuff is nice. Wow. So Paul just drew up. My thing wasn't scrolling because I'd hit the little lock thing. So essentially Paul decided if I pay 3 to drain for 2 here, Justin has 3 in hand. He can just lose those 2 of them from hand. And then on Justin's turn, I have no way to deal with this Owen and Baru. I have no way to do that. So on Justin's turn, he's going to drain for 2 and 2. So I'll lose 4 there. And then he'll battle and blank their text, and I'll lose the rest to overflow. So I'm about to lose all of it to Lost Pile and just cost him from hand, and he'll get to retrieve with domination from that battle before I die. So he'll win by 1 more. I'm not going to be able to battle through this stack of guys this turn. I have no way to get down his differential, and in fact, it will only go up. So Paul just activates it all and draws up. Justin wins by 10. He has 13 in Lost to Paul's 26 in Lost. And they are going to take a 5 to 10 minute break. I will go ahead and stop this stream so that it's cut easily into 2 parts for Game 1 and Game 2 for YouTube. But stick around. We will start streaming in somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes for game 2. Once again, that is win by 10 for Justin with 13 and 26 respectively, and 13 for Justin, 26 in Paul's lost pile. And we will see game 2 in just a few minutes. Thanks for being around here, guys, and chatting. Makes it a lot more entertaining. Back in just a bit.